It's a first-of-its-kind program in the region with the goal of putting young vocalists on track for commercial success. The immersive syllabus teaches not only songwriting basics, but offers exposure to national touring acts and even lets students record and distribute their work. I'm joined now by John Citrone, my former colleague, but currently a songwriter and electronic music instructor at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. Welcome, John.
Hello.
Hello. Also here, Natalie Hyder, DA Arts Director. Welcome.
Good morning.
And songwriting student Jessalyn Lauramore. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
To our listeners, if you've got a song inside you that you just need to get out, give us a call at 549-2937 or email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also message us through Facebook or Instagram or tag us on X at FCC On Air. So let's start, John. Explain to us what this new vocal major track is and how it's different from what's currently available at Douglas Anderson or elsewhere.
Well, the songwriting track functions under the vocal umbrella. And so right now, the songwriting class is geared toward teaching young people the fundamentals of pop songwriting. And I'm using pop as a genre, not as a descriptive. So when we talk about this in class, we're like, what's the difference between popular music and pop music? And I think there's a distinction there. Pop is a huge umbrella. You know, you could say pop, country, hip hop, rock and roll. You know, I could list 17 different genres under the pop umbrella. So we're talking more like commercial songwriting. What is the fundamental structure of that? And why does it work? And when do you break those rules? That's really where we launch, because a lot of the kids that are in the class have never written a song before. They've sung songs before, and we've all listened to songs before. And there's this inherent relationship we have with songs and songwriting, but we might not know the mechanics of it. So that's where we kind of launch. And this is our first year, so I'm writing the curriculum as we go. Hopefully this will blossom into a bigger track that includes music business, platforming your music, and different aspects of songwriting and where you go from here.
Who are your students going to be? Like what group of DA students and students who don't go to DA will this appeal to?
Well, right now we pulled from our student body. So we have vocal majors, jazz band majors, piano students. That's kind of what we're pulling from. But when we're appealing to, for next year, we're appealing to student bodies of middle schools, graduating, 8th graders. They could come from anywhere. We're recently doing some outreach to some middle schools to encourage kids to come to DA. And I had a student come up and say, well, I really want to get into musical theater. Well, here's our songwriting track. Somebody's got to write those songs that they sing on stage. So it is a much broader appeal than one might think. You don't just have to be a singer.
And so how is it different from what is available currently? Like, how is it different from what you obviously have a great vocal program?
We do, but that comes normally from the traditional choral, canon. And even the popular song group, those that sing popular songs, are singing popular songs in more of a theatrical or Broadway manner, and they're usually a cappella. There's very, very rarely musical accompaniment to that. What the songwriting course does is it puts the responsibility in the students' hands. They have to write original music. They have to perform that original music, whether they're accompanying themselves or they have an accompanist. And it is a full immersion in what it would be like to be a songwriter and all of the other things that go along with achieving success in a commercial market. Appearance, presentation. Even yesterday when we did our in-school performance, we had a lot of technical difficulties with the actual hardware that we're using and software. And so knowing how to respond to that as a singer-songwriter, I've got to perform my song and the keyboard isn't working. Well, what do we do? Problem solving on the spot. These are the kind of auxiliary issues that they deal with that you might not think about when they're signing up for a songwriting course.
I want to ask Jessalyn about that because you're a student. Obviously, you're, I believe, a senior this year.
Yes.
But it sounds daunting what he's talking about. Being asked to perform. I imagine what are very, kind of personal songs and messages.
Yes, it is. But the more you get used to it, the more you know. And I feel like it helps everyone as musicians. The more that they do it, the more they grow and the better they get. So even if the first time you don't do as well, you're going to get better no matter what. I feel like it's a huge opportunity as musicians, especially because a lot of us go to DA as musicians, not necessarily because we really like classical music. A lot of us go because we like music at like all around. So being able to see a different side of that and grow in that is just a huge opportunity.
Natalie, you are the arts director at DA. What is it about this program that appeals to you and that you're interested in, getting students to participate in?
So the background behind establishing this track was that I went out to the University of Southern California, and they have established a pop music industry track or program at their school. And with meeting with those professors, I thought that if colleges are starting more and more to offer this opportunity, why aren't we? And so then I came back and I started talking with John about, what do you think if we tried to start a singer-songwriter track? We really would love to get those students who are out in Jacksonville, who are creatives, who love music, who do not want to study classical. The symphony jobs and opera jobs, they're few and far between. But we still want students to graduate and go out and be creative and create these beautiful, amazing things. We don't want them to just leave high school and then leave the arts.
And talk about some of the opportunities that are out there for students who are going to be accomplished singer-songwriters having gone through this program.
Well, I can talk about USC a little bit because I have a bit more knowledge now that I have a lot of connections out there. I know that they are offering a tuition waiver that is income-based since it is a private school. And they really would like to have the connection with Douglas Anderson students. So they really would like a pipeline to go to their school, which is in LA, which is, the hub of the music industry. NYU also offers a music industry class, Belmont as well. I know for sure offers a music industry course. And then JU is just establishing a music industry course as well. And we're hoping to do collaborations with Jacksonville University with their songwriting students and their recording students so that they get the experience of what it would be like to keep pursuing this in college.
So, John, in addition to being an educator, you're a longtime musician in Jacksonville. You've had a number of bands that you've led. You've also done a number of projects with other people. You've done a lot of performing in Orlando. Given your breadth of experience, talk about what you can tell your students about things that they might use this skill set for.
Sure. And piggybacking on what Jessalyn said, it's a lot of the kids in DA and other kind of standard music programs get this deep education in jazz history and deep classical, but they don't get a contemporary music history. And that's something I'm starting to incorporate and I want to grow so they can see people like them in the music business. I think that also can be broadened to saying, what can I do for a career as a songwriter? I had that dilemma. I spent most of my years as a journalist, but I was always working in the music business. And once I left journalism and became a full-time musician, I had to make some decisions. I'm aged out of the rock star, world, but I can still be a working musician. I work in a theme park. I work at Epcot as a performing musician. I compose music for theme park rides. I have found purchase in working in both creating original music for television and radio commercials and performing that music. So if I can convince my students that it's not just about being a rock star, pop star, big producer, or the face on the magazine, and saying there are all of these other careers, especially being 2-hour drive from our tourism capital, where singers, performers, engineers, writers, producers are needed. That is a much wider career field that they can enter with this kind of education.
I think it's so interesting, the music that you wrote for Dark Rides. I'd never even realized that was a thing, that somebody is scoring. Obviously they are, but it just was so neat, and to watch you work and develop it. We don't have any of that music here today, but if somebody wanted just to Google it and kind of hear what we're talking about.
Sure. You can look up specifically Volcanu, and it's spelled Volkanu. And this was a ride that I scored that is based on like an island theme adventure. So it's very kind of, I used a lot of tiki drum sounds and things that kind of invoke an island adventure. But I used a lot of orchestral sounds too. So this is getting into deeper composition, but it is an avenue that I discovered through my association with theme parks and dark rides.
So I imagine a lot of people come to songwriting in an organic way.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that they want to write a song. They kind of have a passion for music, but they may not have any real inherent understanding of how to structure a song or how. So I would guess that this program gives some guidance. Is that correct in terms of how somebody with the desire to write a song can actually affect that?
Absolutely. I use a lot of writing tropes in my classroom, and one of them is steal it, then change it. There's nothing new under the sun, right? It's easy to teach song structure if they recognize it. It's harder to say verse, chorus, bridge if no one knows what a chorus or a verse or a bridge is and how they function together to create a song. It's much easier to say, listen to this song. Oh, I know that song. Even if it's something as simple as Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which is also the ABC song, which is also, that was co-opted by, every bedtime song is to that one melody. It's easy to teach it if they recognize it immediately, rather than teaching the mechanics without any examples. So when they're at a loss or they run into a roadblock, I say, what's your favorite song? What are the chords they used in that song? Write something over those chords. Change those chords around. Or make one of those major chords minor. Then they have something very tangible that they can use and start to learn how to manipulate those actual pieces into creating something that is original.
So you created a curriculum that helps break down some of that for students who don't necessarily know the terminology, and you actually brought some examples of that with us, using popular music to show, for instance, how similar chord progressions can be, and at the same time used in really very different ways. So set this up for us. What are we going to be hearing? Who are we hearing from, and what are they playing?
Okay, so the concept here is that throughout the history of popular music and popular Western music in particular, there's only so many chords and only so many notes on the keyboard, especially the way Western music is structured. Indian and Eastern music is a little different because they have semitones and other things that happen within, but we have a very structured, rigid way of creating music in the Western world. And throughout history, the same chords have been used over and over, and sometimes leading to lawsuits between bands because they sound exactly the same. Well, the 4 examples I brought, and there are many others that use these chords, the thing that makes them interesting is the phrasing and the melodies that go on top of those chords. Same exact chords, you'll see. We're going to start with Chicago, and the song is 25 or 64, and then we're going to go through Led Zeppelin, Green Day, and the Beatles. And Green Day is a real important pivot point for my students because it's something they really recognize. But let's listen to Chicago 25 or 64 first. So what I tell my students is they might not recognize this because it's old school, right? Classic rock. But I'm baiting them. There's a trap set. It's Green Day. It's coming. The songs that they know. This is a very simple riff, right? It starts on A and it descends all the way down to the E. The pattern is very recognizable and easy to follow, and it repeats over and over again. The same exact chords are used in Led Zeppelin's Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, and the pattern is almost the same.
We're gonna go walking through the park every day. Come my way, every day.
There's a slight nuance added. There's a pickup note, and there's one extra note added to Chicago's is da-da-da-da-dun, and the Zeppelin is da-da-da-da-dun-dun, but it's still the same thing. What makes it different is, of course, what is coming. In the Chicago song, it's the vocal melody, da 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 da, over the same riff. And here it's, and eventually Robert Plant is just going, baby, baby, building over this, right? So then I bring it up to the Green Day, which is a more modern version of this. It's a half step down because a lot of modern rock bands like to pretend that they're singing higher than they are. So it's an E flat, not E. But it's the same intervallic relationships and almost the same pattern. Of course, there are notes missing. Remember, Chicago was da 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 dun. Zeppelin was da 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 dun dun. This is just the first two notes. Da da. Same thing. Exactly the same thing. And of course, the vocal melody is different on top of the Green Day song. Then I use the Beatles because we have to use the Beatles in any songwriting course, right? Like 3.5 of the greatest songwriters that ever lived. Sorry, Ringo. But in this one, you'll hear the last group is left off, but it is still the same, almost the same pattern and still the same exact chords. And of course, this is much more subtle because there's the piano, there's a lot of orchestration going on top of this. But it's still, this is just 4 songs. This has been done over and over again and with many other chord progressions. So I think it gives my students a sense of ease, knowing that using the circle of fifths or ripping off a riff or a chord progression from a band from 20 years ago or even from yesterday, you get a little bit of a license. You can say, okay, I'm going to start with this as my foundation. Now I'm going to write a little melody. Okay, that's the first challenge. Then we have the whole other idea of lyrics. What are you going to write about? My students are like deer in the headlights. They're like, I have no idea. Well, what are your experiences? What are you reading? What are you watching? Write about So we start with that foundational element and we just keep building and building as we go.
If you have questions about Douglas Anderson's new vocal tract that is a songwriter-focused program, feel free to give us a call. We're at 549-2937. You can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Reach out on social media or tag us on X at FCC On Air. Jessalyn, I want to ask you about what we were just discussing. Were lessons like that helpful to you to kind of learn how other artists are using and perhaps manipulating very familiar chord progressions?
Yes, very helpful, because when you start out writing a song, you have no clue where to start. Most people, when you come in, you're like, okay, well, these chords sound kind of nice together, but you have no clue where to start. So having kind of a basis to work off of is very, very helpful. And just having that example to follow and then making it your own.
And so when you started songwriting, do you have certain artists that you fed off of or that inspired you? Or that you were able to kind of take some of what they were using and repurpose it?
Yes, so I just used a lot of common chord progressions and worked that into my music. I can't think of any specific artists, but I know that I just used a lot of common chord progressions to start off with, and then later I'm going to work on kind of like mixing it up. But.
Mm-hmm. And Natalie, this program, it's audition-based, is that right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how people could get involved if they wanted to, and who you're encouraging to give it a try.
So we really would like any students who have a love for writing music or lyrical poems that have musical training, because Douglas Anderson still has a standard of entrance on an intermediate level. So they have to have a little bit of a background in music and in vocal. But auditions are on the 23rd and 24th of January. Our application window is open now. So if you go to our website and to our auditions page, there's a link to go onto Slide Room, which is our application platform. And if they pick the singer-songwriter track application, then there'll be instructions on there on how to apply. All of our audition requirements are online as well. They have to go through a normal vocal audition, and then in addition to the normal vocal requirements, they will need to play an original song that they wrote, just verse and chorus.
And so they do have to have some basic level of skill, but you're encouraging people who maybe have some of that skill, but perhaps an interest in things like poetry to try this out.
Absolutely.
We have discussed, setting this up, we had to figure out what we were looking for. And I think that we're not only looking for skill, but we're also looking for potential. A person that might show some aptitude in poetry can easily be led into how does that relate to song lyrics? Or a person who is really good on piano. I was searching for some students for this, and I encouraged I saw a student perform just this amazing piano piece. She didn't write it, but she performed it. And I said, you have amazing aptitude on the keyboard. You should apply. You should get into my songwriting class. I think you'd be good at it. And she was wary, but she got in and she's doing great. That's the kind of potential we're looking for. Like you've got some of the raw material. Let's shape that a little bit.
And the performance aspect, you showed us several videos of your students. Was that like a final project that they?
Well, it was actually it was their very first songwriting project, and so when we went into that recital, they were at different levels of completion. For some of them, it was a workshop. For others, it was the first time they're performing that song all the way through.
It seemed like a very supportive environment, and yet you could see that, for some of them, it was probably a very difficult performance.
Well, we have great facilities at DA. We've got these beautiful black boxes. We've got smaller recital theaters. We've got a larger theater that seats a lot of students. And for some of my students, this is the first time they're performing in front of anyone other than their classmates, 8 people in a room or 15 people in a room. This is a full theater. So it was daunting for some of them. But we do talk about, rising to that challenge for the inexperienced songwriter. How are you going to perform your song? What's your emotive background? What are you trying to convey to the audience? How are you carrying yourself? This is all stuff that maybe, okay, I've written a song. Now how do I perform it? That's a whole other level of challenge for them.
Do you think this would have been something when you were growing up that would have been?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, when I was, there was never anything like this in our schools. The arts were really like, here's some construction paper, make a tree, here's a little xylophone, bing, bang, bong. Unless you're in band, or chorus, or in some cases theater. I was in a rock band at 15. I had no one other than the people I was watching on MTV to guide me. And both my sister and I got into the performing arts because we were drawn to it, but we had very little support in the school system to do that. This is such an opportunity for kids who are great at music, but maybe aren't, into the whole traditional jazz thing. Or I like singing in choruses, but I really want to get on a stage and rock, I want to write my own stuff. It's the only opportunity they have in the district right now to do this. And knowing where I came from and how much education I got by doing, like getting thrown to the wolves, being in nightclubs, auditioning for, one of the most daunting things I've done is auditioning for Disney, because everybody is top quality. And if you don't pay your dues before you get there, you're going to collapse under the pressure. That's something that these kids can now experience in real time at a younger age.
And that's something that I hadn't really thought about, Jessalyn, but, a lot of people that go to performing arts schools obviously love to perform, have some skills, but in terms of being able to actually create what it is that they're performing, that's sort of a rare opportunity.
Yes, it is. I have been doing music for my entire life, and I've never gotten that opportunity anywhere. So to be able to go to the school I'm already at, where I'm learning classical, I'm learning jazz, and to be able to go into pop is great.
And Natalie, what are you hearing from the student body so far? What about the administration? How much buzz is there about this program now that it's kind of underway?
The administration has been really supportive. They understand that to keep Douglas Anderson growing with the times, that we have to introduce new tracks. So they've been very supportive with that. I did survey some students because there was a concern that instead of getting new students to DA, it would just poach from other programs. And the feedback that I got from most of the students is that, yes, there's still going to be students who really just want to study classical, and it'll be there for them. So I really do feel like this track will kind of attract a new audience of students or a new pool of students that hadn't really wanted to consider coming to DA before.
John, tell us a little bit about Jessalyn, the work that she's done for you. She is obviously an exceptional student, but I would guess you have a number of exceptional students and some that really show promise.
Oh, we did our show yesterday called Showtime for the entire student body. I had 10 of my 14 students do it. The progress that they've made in this quarter, last quarter and the beginning of this quarter is astonishing. There are really talented songwriters. Like, you'll see when Jess performs how truly strong the song is. Like, if you're analyzing the song itself, the melody is incredible. It is catchy. That's something we talk about as hooks and choruses and having appeal. And which is hard for me, she's finger picking the guitar while she's singing. So all of these, skill levels are coming together. And what we rarely hear on first listen is the depth of the lyricism. And these kids are writing about some really challenging stuff. My adolescence was tough at times. I don't think it's anything compared to what the social media world is going through, or the kids who are dealing with this. And it has manifested itself in their lyrics. So you get this, on the first listen, you get that's a really nice song. That's really pretty or really strong. But if you can focus on the lyrical content too, it's their kind of like almost post-adolescent struggle of entering the bigger world. And all of my kids are writing about this stuff. So if you're asking me, are they talented? Yes. If you're asking me, do they have potential to be really good songwriters? The answer is a big yes. I am hoping that this class and this program eventually will be kind of the springboard and that level of encouragement that they need that they might not normally get in a regular public school.
So, Jessalyn, you've written an original song. It's called It's Different. And we're going to have you play us out of this segment. But before, can you just tell us a little bit about the song?
Yes. So it's my senior year this year, and I turned 18 Monday. So with that comes a lot of changes in your life that you're not prepared for at all. So I was thinking about what should I write my song about? And I was like, well, what am I feeling currently? And what I'm feeling is very scared. I'm very scared because everything is changing currently. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm going into more things that I love doing. I'm doing more music now. I have a lot more opportunities. But it is different. Like, it's very different from what you're used to. And that's what my song's about.
Well, thanks so much to John Citrone, Natalie Hyder for being here. And now here's Jessalyn Lauramore performing It's Different.
Every day I wake up and wonder what's going through my mind. Every day I wake up and feel like I'm falling behind. And 'cause everything's changing, everything's moving in its own way. Everything's changing, when will I get to say that it's different, different than I thought? Yes, it's different, different than I want. But it's not what I thought I'd need. But maybe it's just what I'll be. I'll be different. Oh, I'll be different. Oh, I wait for the day when I feel less like when I don't feel like my life is gone. Maybe it'll change, maybe it'll be alright. Maybe it'll change, maybe in the middle of the night. But it's different, different than I thought. Yes, it's different, different than I want. But it's not what I thought I'd need. But maybe it's just what I'll be. I try to be present and real. I try, but what even do I feel? 'Cause everything's new and everyone's ready. Everyone knows what to do. 'Cause everything's new and everyone's ready. But I have no clue. 'Cause it's different, different than I thought. Yes, it's different, different than I want. But it's not what I thought I'd need. And maybe it's just what I'll be. 'Cause I'll be different. Oh, I'll be different. Oh.
Thank you so much for that. So there's actually an opportunity to see some of your students doing this. I just want to say that was a really beautiful song.
Thank you so much.
Really lovely.
She's great.
Yeah, she's terrific. So tell us a little bit about some additional opportunities to see students like Jessalyn.
Tomorrow night,
Okay.
we have a coffee house performance, which will include my songwriting students as well as other students in DA performing. I think, how many do we have? 5?
I think so.
5 or 6 of my songwriting students will be performing their original work. Tomorrow, Coffee House, I believe it starts at 7 p.m., and you can get tickets at the DA website.
And so are they all going to be performing similarly?
Oh, yeah.
Original stuff.
Yep. Some will be playing piano and singing. Some will be on guitar. Some have a little ensemble that they put together with their fellow students. So and that's something we've been working on, is collaborating with other departments, getting large, because not only do they write on a guitar or piano, but I want to help them arrange for band, because that's eventually, part of what they're going to be doing, these ensemble performances of their original music.
And so, Natalie, when you have a student of this caliber, it seems like just a really standout talent, but obviously DA is awash in really standout talent. How do you promote the individual student and also kind of the collective talent that you have at the school?
Well, they get a lot of opportunities like Coffee House, where they are the requirement to perform is that it must be student original work, so that they can come up with their own creative outlets. It's not even just music. It's poetry, and I'm trying to think of what else they do.
What we see is, we do have a dance program. We've got visual art. We've got creative writing. We've got jazz band. So all of these kind of elements are mixing together, and the students are passing each other in the halls, and they're saying, well, can I use your photography would you like to? And even with my class, I have 2 different classes. I also teach electronic music, and it's going to be a prerequisite for my songwriting. So we're sometimes soundtracking events. I have a student that is writing a soundtrack for the Crucible that's coming up. So there's all this cross-pollination going on in the school. The energy is so super high when it comes to creative work. And they manifest themselves in stuff like Coffee House or in the Crucible or in any number of the other presentations that we put on.
And one of the things that you're doing in the vocal program is I don't know if it's a requirement, but an opportunity for students to do recording of their own work and distribute it. So talk about what that element is.
Our goal is to have the students record a CD on Dolphinium Records with Jacksonville University. We're in the works getting that together. The logistics are tough, but we're going to make it happen. When they have this music, they might not know what to do with it. CDs are only for a certain audience now. I still listen to CDs.
Mm-hmm.
But where this is really
Do you
happening,
still have your collection?
I do. It's huge. It's even bigger. But where this is really manifesting itself is online streaming. And they need to know how to prepare their recordings for the online environment, where to platform them, and where to promote them. And these are things that we discuss in the class as well.
Well, thanks again so much for being here. You guys appreciate it. It was a wonderful, wonderful song, and best of luck to you, Jessalyn.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John and Natalie Hyder from Douglas Anderson, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.